Well, it is 2 o'clock, so I like to reward people for being on time rather than rewarding the latecomers. So I'm going to jump right into it. I am Roger Gilbertson. Welcome, people of Mars, to our monthly Mars Ambassador meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 13th, my sister's birthday, 2003, and we've got the recording on. Ambassador James Melton asked me to fill in for him today, and he had a conflicting commitment, but he'll either be able to join us later in the meeting or he'll watch us on the playback. As you know, the Mars Society Ambassador Program is designed to assemble an educated team of people with the mission to elevate the public awareness towards landing humans on Mars and settling the red planet. And I would add, within our lives, because I'd like to see that happen soon. I've got my laptop on board here. And before I begin the main presentation, I wanted to start from first slide. And then if we switch to Zoom and share screen, I'm going to commandeer the screen like that. Is everyone seeing the picture of Mars from the Hope? Excellent. So that is the latest image of the Deimos, the moon of Mars. And in our mnemonics that I developed, Deimos is the dinky, distant, and dawdling moon. It's smaller and further away than Phobos, and it goes slower. And now to that mnemonic, we can add dented, because look at that. It has got a big, this is the side of Deimos that keeps its face away from the surface of Mars. They are tidally locked. And we've never seen this side of it before. And that little notch there looks like a very interesting place to park a spacecraft. If you wanted to settle in there, you'd have extra shielding from cosmic rays on the sides, I would think. Deimos is very small. So here, let me see if I can get back to my slides. Boom, 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 boom. This one. There, dinky, distant, dawdling, dented Deimos. For comparison, Deimos is about 15 by 12 kilometers, and here it is floating above Brooklyn, to give you an idea how it compares to New York and Central Park and all that. So, congrats to the United Arab Emirates for giving us this amazing view. And today, my main talk is about Mars Society's Flashline Mars station. And if you've seen these pictures before, I wanted to give an overview. The station has not been visited in a couple of years, thanks to the pandemic and such. I am a member of the ground support team for the upcoming mission. I'm part of the Earth control crew, if you will. And the crew has been meeting and is getting their equipment together, and they're looking at being on the island for essentially the month of July. So FMARS, as it is called for short, is the Flashline Mars Arctic Research Station. Flashline.com was the primary sponsor when this was all set up back in 2002. They were an enterprise software company, and they were acquired by Oracle in 2006. Oracle does not use the Flashline.com name any longer, so I understand that the naming rights are available again, and perhaps Oracle Mars or OMars. If anyone has Larry Ellison's cell phone number, you want to give him a call, see if you'd like to pick up that. I'm sure the Mars Society would like some more sponsorship. The station began as an idea back in 1999 when a scouting expedition went up there, selected the site. It's at 75 degrees north, so well above the Arctic Circle, and it's about 1,000 miles from the geographic North Pole. It's on a place called Devon Island on the Haines Ridge, which is a ridge overlooking the Houghton Impact Crater. So here's Canada, and up in the north you can see Devon Island here, and the red spot is the approximate location of the Houghton Impact Crater. It was also chosen because of its proximity to the Well, there it is. I didn't rehearse this, so I apologize. The slides and my narration are kind of mismatched. Devon Island is pretty flat. It's up there in the Canadian Arctic. Greenland is to this side of it. And none of the FMARS crew have had encounters with any kind of polar bears, which is the only megafauna up there other than human beings. The island has minimal vegetation, very few animals. I understand lemmings are frequent. And of course, there are a lot of soil invertebrates and things that keep things growing. Most of the life forms there are plant life. The bay at the north side there is where the impact crater is. This is a geological map I found showing the crater. And here is a satellite image of the crater. The red marker is approximately where the FMARS site is located. It is located about a mile away from the Houghton Mars project, which is NASA's Mars Arctic simulation site. The Houghton Mars project was up there. FMARS on the right side of your screen was selected. It's about a mile away, but there is some level of cooperation, but not a whole lot between the two organizations. I'll mention that a little bit later. Now, our FMARS habitat is unique in that it is a true simulation of a space lander based on Robert Zubrin's Mars Direct program. And he designed a habitat that could have been launched on a shuttle-derived vehicle or a Titan IV-derived vehicle. And the can-like structure would have workshops and habitation areas and living spaces and laboratory areas. So the Flashline station has 2 floors plus a loft at the top. The components were all fabricated in the Denver area and then trucked to Moffett Field, California, and they were flown by C-130 aircraft up to Devon Island, where they were dropped as 5 separate packages by parachute onto the island over a period of days in July of 2000. The first 4 deliveries went perfectly well. Unfortunately, the final delivery ended with the Folgers Coffee tagline of "good to the last drop." The parachute on that drop failed, and the delivery fell about 1,000 feet and was smashed to smithereens when it hit the ground. I'm going to change my view here. Then some hand-wringing and consternation ensued because that cargo that was lost had included a small crane structure that was going to be used to build the habitat, a wheeled vehicle to help carry the parts up from the landing site to the habitat ridge, as well as all of the interior floor components. But like any good mission, the team persisted. After a bit of reorganization, local helpers and local materials were enlisted, and assembly proceeded with only a slightly delayed timeline. The station was formally christened. Here's another shot of them standing it up, putting together. Of course, Discovery Channel was up there documenting everything quite thoroughly. There's the dome segments. You can see the walls are quite thick, so it has a lot of insulation. The christening occurred with Dr. Zubrin on July 28th, 2000, and then the first crew went in and gave it a shakedown run right away. There's a lot more details of this whole adventure in Zubrin's book, Mars on Earth, where he recounts the entire adventure. Now, a bit about the area. Resolute Bay is about 100 miles away. It's our last civilization stop before setting out for the FMARS location. As you can see, the temperatures range up to almost 10 degrees C, which is not too warm. Like we say, a warm day on Mars is like a cold day in Chicago. The crew also, because they're so high up during the summer, gets 24 hours of sunlight. The sun comes up early after the spring equinox and doesn't set again until fall. The sun circles around and around the sky every day. So I think the flat earthers have some explanation for that. But to me, you're on top of the world, and the sun is just appearing to go around as the Earth is rotating. Since 2001, there have been a total of 14 crews that have visited the FMARS, with a total of 80 different individuals participating, some of them returning several years in a row. The last FMARS mission happened in 2016. The pandemic, of course, caused restrictions on that, but we are aiming to end that this summer. Last year, we had a courtesy reconnaissance visit made by our neighbors from the Houghton Mars project. They sent us photos and showed that everything looks to be in fairly solid and good condition. So here's pictures of the interior of the HAB, scientists at work, and typical interior. It's pretty spacious. There's a lot of room. The habitat, everyone has private rooms upstairs, and I believe the very uppermost loft is also the seventh room, or perhaps the eighth room. This summer's mission includes two primary goals. First is to clean and restore the interior of the habitat, since it has not been inhabited for quite a while. This will be done out of simulation. We will not be wearing spacesuits. The crew will be working with maximum safety to clear things out, make sure everything's clean and sanitized. After it's deemed ready, the crew will enter and then begin the simulation. The plan is for the simulations to go on for 2 or perhaps 3 weeks. The science that will be performed will extend the work of previous seasons, and you can read about the extensive number of science projects and different surveys and research and explorations that have been done. Science will be conducted generally in complete simulation, where the suits are donned inside the habitat, exit through the airlock. The ATVs are used to transport around the island, and then materials to be analyzed are brought back into the habitat where the science is conducted. Everything is done in sim. However, there's generally one person who assists every sim who is out of costume, out of suit, in order to remain alert for any kind of dangers, the one being polar bears. But apparently in all the missions that have been done, the FMARS has never had a polar bear encounter, and the Houghton Mars project has reported, I believe, just one. So bears are not likely, but still has to be prepared for, because it would make a bad headline. The things that will be studied include the life forms. As you can see in these images, there's not a lot of life around, very little vegetation, but there is water, things do grow, there is cyanobacteria, there are fossilized stromatolites to be found, which is ancient life forms that are found on Earth and could very well be found on Mars if stromatolites took off there. And then, of course, the elusive Arctic tardigrades, which are tiny little creatures that live in water. They will be located wherever they are, collected and brought back in. Past years, there have been work with rovers. I don't believe there is a rover on the list, although there was some discussion of it. So I'm not quite involved with the science payloads that are being packaged for that, but I hope to learn more. This year's team, this is a gypsum experiment. These rocks were found. Gypsum on Earth contains naturally high amounts of water, even though the stones look very dry. That gypsum was taken back into the laboratory and processed to release the fresh water, as it could be done on Mars. In addition, the gypsum was then ground and used as a medical plaster. So, here we are. There's the tardigrades. So tardigrades are smaller than the period on a dot matrix printer. They need a microscope to be located, but they have been found on Devon Island in the past, and we may set out to do some zoology and see if we can locate them again this year. So when the crew arrives, they will begin their immersive work, and the habitat is run by gasoline-powered generators. The gasoline is brought up on the flights. They fly in all the equipment, and then we fly out all the waste. The garbage, everything is saved and packed up. Eventually, we don't want to leave any trace that we were there. Water is sourced locally. It's collected 2 or 3 times a week. It's brought to the habitat where it's treated with standard camping purification methods. We have to bring all food with us. Meals are prepared each day from a variety of long-term storable foods. Dr. Zubrin especially likes the fresh bread maker, and he says that making fresh bread is an especially important and satisfying feature of the missions. And it's also a pretty basic human function to have fresh bread somewhere when you come home for dinner. Everything is packed out to be shipped back in the aircraft, except for human waste, which is collected, bagged at the source, and then burned in a high-temperature incinerator, which is located just a short distance from the habitat. In previous missions, we've brought satellite phones, and we'll be bringing those along as well. But this year, we are adding a Starlink base station. It's already been procured and tested here in Los Angeles, and it provides really amazing bandwidth and easy to use. It should allow for high bandwidth communication of photos and videos and even live teleconferencing. However, during the simulations, we do impose a 15-minute delay in communications to simulate the Earth to Mars light speed delay. At the end of the missions, we will pack everything up, clean it up, put it into long-term storage again for the next crew. We will endeavor to document everything so that the future crews will know what they have available in terms of tools and materials. And weather permitting, the planes will fly in to retrieve the crew at the end of July, bring them back to Resolute Bay, and then on to Yellowknife, and from Yellowknife back to their home places of origin. The cruise for this coming year has not been announced yet, but the media coverage team is going to make that big announcement soon. They include, I believe, members from around the world, as some have been to the site before, others have been to the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah. And we have an EMT, we have medical doctors, we have scientists, geologists on board. So it looks like a good diverse crew, and they have a lot of work ahead of them. There will be a presentation given at the end of the mission. They'll gather up everything in order to give a talk at the upcoming 26th annual Mars International Convention, which will be again at Arizona State University in Tempe this coming October. So get ready for that, sign up, get your tickets, or get ready to tune in online if you want to attend by remote. So in conclusion, the 15th mission to Mars, Mars station will happen this summer. And for future missions, if you're so inclined, you should consider applying for it and joining a mission. It looks to me like a pretty exciting thing to be doing. So, any questions? Who's got questions? Let's see, how do I first undo this? Stop the screen sharing. Oh, that one, stop the share. All right. So who's got a question? Or do the Dr. Melton thing and say, Bill Carton, how you doing? Oh, you're muted, Bill. You push the little, click the little red button on the lower left there.
Got it. Got it. No, I have not worked the simulations into my talks. I'm still giving weekly talks at the Air and Space Museum here near Portland, but I've not worked the simulations in, and I need to learn more about it in a few slides.
Absolutely. It is active. We're coming up on 300 missions, I think, probably by next spring at the Utah station. Of course, 15 up in the much more challenging Arctic situation. And then our friends in Mongolia are beginning to set up their operations, and those should be coming online soon. So I think as an inspirational aspect, and also to show that amateurs or independent scientists can actually contribute to this, I'd love to see what you decide to include in your talks.
Yeah, sure. It's like pulling teeth to pass out the trifold things and try to motivate them to join the society, which is, you know, I know half of the purpose of the ambassadors is to raise awareness and so forth.
Yeah, how can we get people to subscribe to, you know, a once a week newsletter or something? Is that something we should look into?
Yeah, it's weird. The Air and Space Museum visitor logs and the analysis they've done, they just hired a new marketing person to do social media, which is going to be better. But the average visitor only goes 1.1 times in their lifetime. So
This is the big place in McMinnville?
yeah, it is, with the Spruce Goose. I'm on the
above
space.
average. I've been there twice now. So yeah, it's an exciting place.
Yeah.
But if you don't know about it, you need to get people there.
People go at random. It's not like in the top tier of museums, but it's the one near me. So
I was very impressed by their collection and how they also balanced the American and the Soviet space program presentations. There was a lot of good
We are getting a new artifact, which is the frame or the base from what could have been a spare Viking lander that was in the Seattle Museum for a few years,
Oh, wow.
and the owner is relocating it to ours. So that's new. We can't just plunk it down on the floor. We have to have a nice arranged diorama and other explanations to go with it. But it would be wonderful if I can sneak that into the curator's mind and say, oh yeah, and also let's talk about Mars Society. I'll let you know.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, well, thank you, Bill. Who else? Got some people. I saw Emmanuel Tumasi. Not met Emmanuel before. His camera's off though. Oh, Emmanuel, there you are. Hello. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining currently from Ghana, West Africa.
Ghana, wonderful.
Yeah, Ghana, West Africa. So we also looking at starting a chapter here. I've been talking to like James about it, and I've been joining. I'm literally like an ambassador, a Mass Society ambassador, and I've been joining like every month for ambassador meeting, but I couldn't join the last one because I was traveling. Yeah, but I'm currently back in Ghana. I'm coming back for the Mass Society Convention, the 26th Mass Society Convention. I was there last year. I met a couple of ambassadors as well. So yeah, pretty much what we're doing here with Mass Society here is we're also creating like more awareness within like Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, and then we're putting like much emphasis in Ghana right now. And then as we speak, we're trying to run certain models to get high school students and then lower graders to get into like interactive shows, interactive STEM activities that's gonna promote the Mass Society. So we've spoken to about 30 schools, and then we are working on that. So yeah, a lot of like they're pretty much activities that we've been working with, collaboration with our company, Porton Space Engineering. We're also part of the sponsors for last year's 25th Mass Society Annual Convention. So we're looking forward to whatever support we can rally from our side, and then support the Mass Society, looking at corporations and other people. So I'm pretty much pumped as well for the upcoming conference, and then I'll be sharing more about what we're doing probably next month.
Excellent. Oh, so on the Mars Ambassador talk, will you share with us more of what you're doing?
Yeah. So we had something called the Mars Awareness Day, where we have like a Mars Society Occupy Mars t-shirts, and then we have the solar system app, the AR app, where we show little kids. Someone's wearing run. I can see your t-shirt. Yeah. So Occupy Mars, we had that. Check our website is there. So Occupy Mars t-shirt. We'll make sure that the Mars Awareness Day talk about Mars in general. So it's like Mars evangelism. Once you wake up the morning, it's Mars Ambassador Day. We're supposed to have this year's Mars Awareness Day on the 14th of April, but I was still like in the state, and I came back just a couple of weeks ago. So we are looking at having reaching the date to next month, 14th of July. We'll be having a Mars Awareness Day. And then this time around, we want to celebrate it with 3 other countries. So we're doing it Ghana, South Africa, and then Kenya. So hopefully next week I'll be going to South Africa, and I'm looking forward to meeting the rep for Mars Society there as well, and then also in Kenya. So this year, that's what we're doing. And then we have that on the 14th of July, hopefully. And then in August, before I join shortly, or probably September before I join shortly for the convention, we'll be having our models with 3 schools. Morning Glory, Peace Academy. They are like in various parts in Ghana. And then we're looking at another international school, Ghana International School, where we'll be running our models like teaching STEM activities. And also the major thing is just to promote the Mars Society, get young people. We have a little kid from the Morning Glory School who says he want to be an astronaut. And then we are seeing how best we can get funds and then bring him to the convention. So he can start. He's just 9 years or 7 years old. So pretty much like that's what we're doing
Can
for
you
this year.
can
It's
you
really
can you
exciting.
do this? Can you take photos of some of your presentations, your classrooms, or your students, and share
Yeah,
with us?
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. That's what I'm doing. So,
I'd love to see that.
yeah, exactly. So mostly, like, I was gonna email most of them to James and also James Beck and also James Melton as well. And I'll be sharing it next month when we're doing a mass awareness. I'll just have to confirm on the exact day. We can all participate and have like it's a mass awareness day. So that's what we do. We just put on a Mass Society T-shirt, talk about something mass, write on your status mass, like get people intrigued about the Mass Society. Yeah, you can
Excellent.
just post something on your status Mars, and it will interest you to know there are people who don't even know there's a planet Mars, and they don't even know nothing about our solar system to even start with. So it's like a gradual step out here on our continent, but I mean we're pushing with the
Well,
little we have and the little resources that we
Africa
have.
there's so many young people there, and there's so much
Yeah,
opportunity for the future. It's fantastic that
exactly.
you're making the effort to do this. Since your Mars Awareness Day is on July 14th, that comes in
Yeah,
the middle of the FMARS simulation. And I know the marketing director for the Mars Society, Michael, has been looking at setting up educational connections. The
great.
connection you're using right now, would you be able to do something in a classroom with the students like this, the
Yeah,
Zoom?
yeah, yeah.
Because I can't promise anything. It's not something I'm directly involved with, but perhaps there would be a way for the Canadian mission to appear in your classroom on the Mars Day, or for you to talk with them in a live interactive way. And I can't think of two more different environments than Devon Island and Ghana. They look like fairly different
Yeah,
environments. So
yeah, exactly. I'll be looking forward to that. I'll be glad to explore such opportunities. I'll be looking forward to that as well. And we can do that. I'm really up for that
well, let
because
me
we want to. So what we do with our company, 14 Space Engineering, is that every month we have something what we call blasting your way to space, where we have like an interactive how do you call it, talk on Google Meet, where we talk about space, talk about how space came about. We employ everyone to join, so we do it like monthly, but then it was on a hold, and we are resuming back first week of August. Yeah, so we have such talks, and then where we're gonna have um, most of our educational simulation. We'll be inviting some of the ambassadors. It's something I was writing in our plan to send to James. And then if some of the ambassadors are willing to maybe have like 30 minutes, 20 minutes of their time, just talk to some kids out here, inspire them, let them know like it's really possible. Like people have good, big dreams to be like astronaut. And some are going to international schools. Their parents have money, like private school, like how you call it in the state, but some are also going to like government school. So we're trying to bridge the gap and see how best we have as you said, in Africa, we have like a huge pool of talents. But then
yeah,
now, how do you recruit people? How do you recruit those who are competent? How do you recruit those who really have the interest?
yeah,
Yes, so that has been like always the challenge. But as
fantastic.
yeah, so we're working on that, and I'm gonna be filling all the info in with James Berg, and he's gonna share with all of the ambassadors, and hopefully before our next meeting, I should share all of those details with you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I will ask Michael, our marketing guy, and see if maybe there's a way to make a connection for that. I would love to attend and to ask your kids questions and find out. For me, and probably a number of the other faces, we were all in grade school, high school when the moon landings were happening in the 1960s. And
Wow.
for me as a 7-year-old, that was the most inspiring thing, to study science and math and engineering. So if we can give that same excitement to your kids, that would be good for our future, for everyone's future. So
Great,
thank you for
definitely.
that, Emmanuel. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Who else is here? Steve Wyatt, what are you up to?
Oh, hi. Hang on. Yeah, I was wondering about the flash line facility. Your missions are in the summer. So
Yes.
what sort of temperatures are you working in there? I mean, I presume the suits don't have heating or anything, so.
Well, the suits are heated by the body temperature of the wearer. I understand they're quite comfortable. The days get up as high as 10 degrees C, so
Okay.
chilly. But you've
Yeah.
got a full suit, you've got a nice dome on your head. There is an air circulating fan, I understand. So I've heard no complaints about that. And you know, I've worked on cold outdoor sites, and when you get a good pair of warm overalls, you'd be very comfortable. If your hands and feet are warm, everything else
Yeah.
stays.
True, fair enough. Okay. And do the missions take place in colder times of the year, or was it just in the summer?
So far, they've all been just in the summer months, and
Mhm.
it 6 months later, it will be dark 24/7. So
Of course, yeah.
that changes your heating requirements, your power budget, your power, everything.
Yeah.
We have been exploring how to use wind power to have a wind generator on board the station or nearby, and to see if we could create experiments that might overwinter, where like a true Mars base, we could check in by remote,
Yeah.
get pictures, get weather updates. But that's something maybe you want to propose for a future mission. They're
In the future,
talking
yeah.
about that, but
Yeah.
future things to explore.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Who else? Anyone's got something? My laptop.
I had
Yes, Carl.
I was talking with the local library about setting up a Why Mars, Why Now presentation. Excuse me. And one of the things we settled on was, at least in this part of the world, in mid-October, there's going to be an annular solar eclipse. That's going to, in the case of Florida, be at about between 60 and 80%. And they're going to put together a youth and adult program centered around the eclipse. And so I've wrangled an invitation to give my presentation as part of that. Kind of when you get all the people together, that seemed like a reasonable connection. And so other ambassadors may try to use that as a wedge if some other community organizations are focused on the upcoming eclipse.
So for this eclipse, 60% that the sky gets dimmer, but I wonder if Mars will be in the sky at that time. If you can look on your chart.
I don't think it'll get that dark, at least not where we are.
Yeah,
But,
that's a thought. I mean, here in Los Angeles, there's very few stars visible, but when Mars or Venus is up, they're clearly visible. Jupiter, of course. And we've talked about going out with a telescope. Who was it who Christopher's got the scope in the back there? That would be a great scope to take out onto a town street and set up a stand and say, why Mars, why now? Especially when Mars is right there in the sky.
Yeah.
I think about
presentation, right?
Yeah, Christopher Columbus couldn't say, yeah, it's right there. That's where I'm going. He had to sail over the horizon. When we have Mars in the sky, that can be pretty exciting because you look at it and you can see it's a little circle of.
Yeah, I know. I do know.
And as far as other ambassador activities, the high schoolers and middle schoolers escaped before I could get anything set up this year with the local area schools. So we're going to have to try again next fall.
Yeah.
I do a presentation scheduled later this week with the St. Petersburg Astronomy Club. So that's a little bit preaching to the choir, but probably worthwhile.
Well, what I'm interested in, James Melton and I have talked about this, is the people who are in the sciences but think we shouldn't go to Mars. There's some people who think it's a robots only kind of opportunity. And even within NASA, there are people who don't want to put boots on Mars. They think we'll mess it up, even though we're trashing the planet already. So it's interesting, but we need to collect those viewpoints and be able to address them. So I'll be interested to hear how your astronomy group goes.
I'll pass on a little report when I finish.
Excellent. Yes, that's what we want to be doing. All right. Well, thank you, Carl. Who else is here? Nadia's appearing by photo. Ashton, are you listening in? Do you want to talk? Oh, there's Nadia. Hello.
Everyone.
Where are you calling us from, Nadia?
I'm calling from Calgary, Canada, so very close to the station. So thank you so much for the presentation. That was very informative and quite kind of inspiring to look forward to, hopefully in the future. I've done one mission at the MDRS last year in April, and I've done another mission at High Seas. That was a longer mission.
Oh, wow.
With the military.
That's the very serious operation. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And so I think this station is quite good because when we were at the MDRS, we had a lot of interference from tourists. So I feel if you really want to have real simulation, this station up north would be a really good alternative for that. My question was with regards to the costs. I contacted Dr. Zubrin, and he said that the cost for one mission would be around $150,000. So for both of my missions, I was lucky in that the organizations that were arranging the missions kind of paid for everything, including gear and material for the science and everything. All I had to do is come up with a proposal for the science that I wanted to do, and then they paid for everything. I was just wondering if there are any collaborations with such organizations to maybe like do a competition to select the crew, but then the funding will be taken care of.
I think
Just selecting the best science out there and the best crew. But I mean, $20,000 per crew is not a cheap commitment.
yeah, per
But I also
person. That
understand- yeah.
yes,
I also
20,000 per person is a lot.
Yeah, but I also understand that it's not cheap to run stations like that. So
Well, the food is the food, but the big cost is getting the people there, the airfare, and then getting the equipment there to actually land those planes. It's a price per kilogram. So if you're bringing up a kilogram of water or a kilogram of gold, it's the same. I think it's $19 a kilo to get it delivered there. That does add up, but it's cheaper than actually going to Mars, and that's why we're doing it. It is, I think, the thing where if you have science that you can be done there, that your university or research organization can kick in the sponsorship. As we also saw, the Flashline and Discovery Channel, those kinds of sponsorships can be generated. So I think getting creative is always the best way. And for individuals who happen to have $20,000 to spend on an exotic vacation without any real amenities, that's a good place they should spend their money. So
yeah. So
But-
one of the challenges I had when I was submitting the ethics for my application when I was going to MDRS is that I was working with these biomonitors for astronauts, and the ethics committee actually rejected my application twice because they thought that the company is going to benefit from this research. So I had to find a way around it, and I'm a faculty member here, so it was very, very hard. I found a way around it by basically not giving any raw data to this company. And so from my experience with MDRS, you need to have ethics that are approved by faculty, by universities. But then if universities don't have these obstacles of approving applications from industry because they don't want it to have like monetary benefits for industry, that becomes a little bit more challenging. So I think there might need to be some conversations with regards to.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a new layer for me. I've not been exposed to that, but I can see how if you're going to go ask your employer or a sponsor to give you $20,000 to go on this adventure, they want to get something back for their money, or at least it's a good selling point to say, I will bring you this data or these results or this understanding. If the Mars Society or the sponsoring organization on the recipient side has difficulties with that, then you can't get the money, so you can't do the mission. It seems like a catch-22.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, since you've had direct experience with that, that would be an interesting presentation. I'm curious to know more about. You mentioned your Utah Mars experience, that there was interference from tourists. Did they actually come into the simulation area, or what was going on with that?
So you remember that area where there is a sign? So twice when we were coming back from EVA, they would literally be blocking the way from our rovers. Like we literally had to sit there and ask them to move. They just come with the buses. Other times we just see a lot of people would just drive up to the sign and take pictures, etc. But there was at least 3 instances when we were coming back from EVA, and they would literally be they won't even move. Like we were just literally sitting there.
They're aggressively trying to stop the mission? They're interfering, or they're just
No. They're just stopping there, taking pictures and videos, and just distracted with their devices that they just won't move. Like there was one time that 5 minutes for them to move, and I'm not talking about 1 car or 2 cars. There are buses that are coming there. And so it really does take away from the simulation. At high seas, for 1 full month, I did not see anybody at all. The only interference I had is on radio this one time when I was radioing back to the station during EVA, and some person got to the line and they were talking. But for the full month, we did not see a single
Wow.
soul.
Yeah, high seas is on the slope of the big island in Hawaii,
Yeah, in Kona. Yeah.
in
But
Kona.
it
Okay.
is it's very hidden, and there is a long road to get access to it, and then there is a blockage to the road. So it would be
Interesting.
the equivalent of having a gate from the road to come into MDRS.
Right, right. I've not
Everybody-
been to the Utah station, so I
Yeah.
can't quite picture it, but it seems like something that the operations might need to address, or maybe the local sheriff needs to keep the roads clean or something. I don't,
They actually advertise it as tourism attractions to Utah. Like, we went to restaurants after my partner came, and we were just around the area, just going to local restaurants, etc. And they were advertising it in the magazines. As an
who's making
attraction.
money from this? The bus operators?
I don't know. The bus operators, the tourism industry, I don't know.
Well,
But
we-
yeah.
Mars Society needs to charge an admission fee down at the gate.
Yeah, that would be our funding for science.
I mean, you know, I go to the national parks and I have to pay to get into the park, so yeah, why not?
But we discussed that with Shannon, and apparently station does not have control over the road, and so there is a loophole there. That's
Right, right. I guess
closed
they,
to the public.
like the Hollywood tour of the stars, they'll drive you around and, you know, they've got their speakers blaring, and here famous celebrity wants to have their privacy and you've got tour buses going by every 20 minutes. That would be,
Yeah.
I guess we're not there yet, but interesting. Well, Nadia, that's aspects
you
I had
so
not
much.
heard of before.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share more if you'd like, and maybe.
I think you should, yes. Again, like, you know, we've got so many different talents and experiences here. I would be interested to learn that more. And as an ambassador, do you do outreach to students where you are or other places, or? Yes, now I can hear you.
I've done a few outreach activities, one with the cadets recently, one of just like a junior military cadets. And there were a couple of high schools that I attended just a kind of a Q&A sessions. And there's a lot of interest for sure. Even here in Canada, people are just still fascinated. And just to share a quick fact about me, I was born and raised in Morocco. And then I moved to the UK for my post-secondary education, and then to Canada to do my PhD. But growing up in Morocco, especially as a girl, and I was in public school, I was always fascinated by space, but you cannot mention the word. If you mention the word, oh, I want to be an astronaut or space, they just think that you are, you know, a little bit, have a lot in common with Emmanuel, not to that extreme, but yeah, there was something that I could not talk about out loud. It was like, you know, I
Wow.
feel annoyed.
How do
And
we
again,
change
this was
that?
a long time ago.
I mean-
Well, it was when I moved to Canada. It was just this really amazing connection between my research and space medicine. And I met with Robert Thirsk, who was our chancellor at the time. And we just had a mentorship session, and then it just started from there. So my research was with cardioprotective vaccines, and Dr. Thirsk just mentioned that, you know, there are a lot of issues with cardiovascular deconditioning in space, and so that just kind of kicked off an interest, and I did some more research and I wrote proposals. I submitted proposals to ESA for bed rest studies, etc. But right now I'm just looking at cardiovascular deconditioning and countermeasures, as well as remote healthcare monitoring.
Excellent, fascinating. Well, I mean, clearly, any young person in Morocco or anywhere should be encouraged to explore space and go to Mars. So we have to find ways to reach them. Saudi Arabia has their first male and female astronauts up there now, and hopefully, little by little, we can, you know, let all the kids dream about this, because it's certainly an opportunity.
Absolutely. Saudi Arabia has a lot of money, and so they can do that. Morocco, not so much.
Not so much.
Unfortunately,
But
still
Yep.
in very, very developing stages, and I don't think that they would want to spend the resources on something that they don't deem necessary.
Right.
But
But
also there will be opportunities. Like, I was born and raised there, and now I moved to Canada. I have Canadian citizenship, so I do have other opportunities. And so you
Yeah.
really never know.
well, and Elon Musk talked about how he wouldn't have started a rocket company in South Africa. There's just not an opportunity for it, you know. But things change, and certainly a student in any country can educate and go on and do these things.
Exactly.
You know,
just
I
have to
think
do well at school. Yeah.
you have to do well at school, and that's the main thing. And if you do well at school, if you embrace science and all of the, you know, the ways of thinking that come with that, you're going to do well in any area. And you know, I haven't been into space, but it's always been an exciting thing and a driver for all the things I've been interested in. So
Absolutely.
exciting.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you
thank
so
you very
much.
much,
Nice to meet
Nadia.
you, everybody. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. We've got a few minutes left. Anyone else?
Yeah, Roger, Nadia's experience is reminiscent of the splashdown of the Demo 2 mission when the capsule was completely surrounded by private pleasure craft. Shortly after splashdown.
Yeah, that's great.
Interesting. Well, yeah, Florida, all those people have boats. It's like, oh, let's go out and get the astronauts. Interesting
Our,
problem.
our nickname for that crowd was the Pensacola Redneck Navy.
Interesting problems to have. Who would have thought John Glenn was splashing down? They didn't have an army of private boats going out for him. Susan Jewell, Dr. Jewell, you're on the line there. You're listening in?
Yeah,
It-
so sorry, I'm late. I'm in another meeting. So
That's all right.
Um,
No, you're good. What are you up to these days? Dr. Jewell does a lot of space medicine related activities as well. Nadia was just talking about her space interest with cardiovascular. What are you up to, Susan?
yeah, so we will be doing the first aquanautics space medics training missions in early 2024 off the Florida Keys. This is at the Jules Lodge. I think maybe some of you have known that recently a Guinness World Record was achieved by, I think, Dr. Dituri, who is a hyperbaric space scientist, and he stayed down there over 100 days. So that's the
Yeah.
same underwater habitat that we'll be deploying several missions, but it's the expansion of our space medics training program. So that's coming up. We will probably start selecting crew teams to join those missions. And it will also be part of the United Nations Women for Space program that I'm a mentor in. And so we would be encouraging a lot of women in hard tech, you know, to qualify for the missions. So that's just one of many things that we are doing. So we want to
Fantastic. Well,
take up time.
how many people will be on the underwater mission, and how long will they be under there?
Yeah. So because this is the first of a series, we can hold up to 6 crew members, and we can go as long as we want. Obviously, we don't want to start long duration in our first test trial. So we'll probably have it for up to a week, 4 to 6 days. It depends on the crew. You obviously you must have had prior analog experience in a mission, being part of a mission, and you also need to have other qualifications like scuba diving, and because we will be doing medical EVAs in the underwater during the day and in the evening at nighttime as well. So you know, do a lot of technologies, med tech that we've been doing since 2014 in all these, you know, other austere missions that we've been deploying. But that's just one of many things that we're doing. But I don't want to use up everyone's time. But we will do the announcement, of course, and hopefully that we can have a lot of the Mars Society members apply. And by the way, I'm also overseeing reopening the Mars Society Los Angeles chapter, and hopefully also the Florida chapter. So that's going to be probably activated in the next few months.
Well, let me know when we're meeting. I'm here in LA, so that would be great.
Wonderful.
And thank you for that. I would love to hear a presentation after your mission. I think,
Yes, absolutely. And we do for the qualified students. And by the way, when I say students, I'm not just talking about the young generation. We have an initiative called the Apollo, and these are the baby boomer generations that if you are also interested in coming into these missions, we do offer scholarships to help, with the finances and so on and so forth. And last but not least, we're very open to what we call external opportunistic research. So if you have a project that you would like to test out in our missions, you please submit it, and I'll give you more information how to do that. And if it's approved, and obviously safety is number one, so we have to make sure it's safe for the crew. But we would be gladly to test your projects, whether it's human behavior or technology, whatnot, in our missions. So that's another opportunity for people to collaborate and participate.
fascinating. Wow. Well, thank you. Yeah, the underwater environment has so many analogs to space. I mean, the necessity of having equipment to keep you alive and breathing is a big one. But I know Arthur C. Clarke always compared the analogies, similarities and differences between space and underwater.
Oh, absolutely. Water is an analog of space, but also if you've heard of Jacques Cousteau, and back in, I'm a baby boomer, so Jacques Cousteau was a very famous underwater researcher and
I
an
think everyone on screen
oceanographer.
should know Jacques Cousteau. Yeah.
Jacques Cousteau. Well, his son, God, I forgot his name, Fabian Cousteau, has just recently announced that they're going to build the very first underwater habitats really deep in the ocean bed. And so they will be using that. It's similar and analogous to the the commercial or Earth orbit stations that are being built, but they're going to build it in the ocean deep. And obviously it's a great way to do research, but it's also to help do research to save our oceans. So I think that's a wonderful
Excellent.
sort of expansion of using the ocean for analog and training.
Absolutely. And yeah, important to know that. And as they say, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do the deep floor of the ocean. So we have a lot to learn. Excellent.
Have an email where we can contact you, Dr. Joel?
Susan,
Oh, I'll write it in the chat. I'll write it in the
Okay.
chat. Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Nadia, you can see the chat there.
Yes.
Okay. And let's see. Itzel is in Mexico City. Milton, you tuned in. Where are you tuning in from? Oh, and Dean is here. Either of you, anyone want to speak up? Boom.
Hi, ambassadors. I'm connecting now from Bolivia, my new place of residence, and of course, I haven't been able to do such an active job in this new environment, but I'm participating in the second mission to Mars Engineering Design as a judge, and of course, volunteering for the world's biggest analog on the education side. I am a teacher by profession, and well, anything I can do to help kids get familiar with these projects, I do. So you will hear from me soon, since I'm still setting camp over here.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for giving us that update. And wow, Bolivia. So we're getting, we should make a goal of having representation from all the 6 inhabited continents here at some point. We've got a good start. Well, thank you, Milton.
Count on me.
We'd love to hear more about your education efforts in Bolivia. And
I'll be ready next time with a full report. In the meantime, I think I have a fertile soil here to start the activities, and so I'll let you know more.
excellent, excellent. Well, great. Thank you so much. And Dean, looks like you're at Joshua Tree there.
That's right. I'm friends with Jim Melton out here in Yucca Valley.
Oh, you really are in the Yucca Valley. Oh, fantastic.
Oh yeah, that's how I know him. He roped me into the Mars Society, but I have I'm not too active directly with the doing presentations or other activities like that. But I've attended some conventions, and I taught astronomy for over 20 years, and organized a talk a few months ago a friend of mine who teaches a class on Martian geography. I don't know if anybody here attended that talk with Dr. Chris Rodriguez from Cal State Long Beach. Anyway, I always enjoy the presentations. I thought that was really true presentation, Roger. It was very informative about the Flashline Mars station. And I just like keeping up with the group here and hearing the latest developments. So that's my report.
Well, excellent. Fantastic. Thank you for tuning in. And Martian geography, what in particular? Like, I mean, there's no continents to study, no oceans. So what does he focus on?
Oh, she.
She.
Christina, yeah.
Christina, all right.
Yeah, she goes by Chris, but you know, the one thing I learned that we know the geography of Mars as well today because of the the Mars reconnaissance orbiters and the mapping from space, the orbiters. We know the geography as well as we knew the geography of Earth 50 years ago, right? Because 50, 60 years ago, we didn't have that capability on Earth. Anyway, but Chris developed a whole system of layering the geography and identifying different layers. And oh boy, I'm forgetting some of the terms, but Chris teaches a class in Martian geography at Cal State Long Beach. I think it's the only class in the country, perhaps the only one in the world. And she developed this system of the different layers. And what are some of the buzzwords? I'm not remembering the.
I think on the pictures I've seen deserts and canyons and ice caps.
Yeah, and there's
a lot of things, but
yeah, right. And the Tharsis region and the different craters, and of course Valley Marineris and Olympus Mons, and how these things have evolved, the different regions have evolved and changed over time. So that was all part of her
fascinating
presentation and studies. In fact, the presentation, I believe, is still available to be viewed online. Jim sent out the link to that, I'm pretty sure, some months ago after Chris made the presentation.
Okay, I will go look for that. Do you think Christina would give us a condensed, like a 20-minute version of what her class is at some point?
I suppose. I mean, that's more or less what she did.
That's what that talk is, then. Okay.
Yeah,
she should be a member too if she's doing Mars surface education.
Yeah, right. You would. She's just retiring, by the way. I think this year, this spring semester, I think was her very final semester. So I don't know how that's going to affect her participation in these kinds of groups, but I'll mention it to her. I am in touch with her.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you, Dean. It's good to hear that. And we've got 1 minute, less than 1 minute left. Anyone have one final thought or upcoming something we should talk about in the next 50 seconds?
I'd love to hear the class on Mars topography. It would be great.
Yes, excellent, good. So we have a second for that.
I'll remind Jim to send out the link again. It was a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint's available.
Okay. Well, we'll go through the PowerPoint, and then if we have questions, maybe we can have her come in for a grilling and we can put our Mars questions to her. Well, I appreciate everyone's time and attention here. Thank you so much for your excellent questions, and to be continued. Let's keep the world connected here and get this next generation of kids inspired everywhere. Africa, South America, Asia, the whole world. All right. Thank you all so much.
Bye from the United Kingdom.
Okay. To Mars.
To Mars.